Hello, everyone. I hope you are all having a wonderful day. Today, our project will be talking about the roles and impacts of large whales on our marine ecosystem. Celine, Emily, and I will take you through it. Today, we'll be talking about a few important background information that you need to know about whales. Whales are substantial facilitators of nutrients. Whales sequester an extensive amount of carbon throughout their entire ecosystem. Whales sustain and buffer many levels throughout the marine ecosystem, and it is important to understand the impact that whales have on prey predator interactions, and these interactions can change conservation efforts that are seen throughout whales. I will be talking about the important terms that you will be seeing throughout this entire presentation. The first term is carbon sequestration, which this is the process of capturing and storing atmospheric carbon dioxide. The second term is diel vertical migration, which this is a term that represents the trade-off between functions of food gathering and avoiding predators. The third term that I will be talking about is the K selected species, which this term means like the ability of a population to possess relatively stable fluctuation near the carrying capacity of an environment. Trophic cascade is the propagation of indirect effects of higher trophic level consumers downward through a food web. Hysteresis is the condition in which a functional relationship follows different specific pathways depending on the directionality. And endothermy is the last term I will be talking about, and it is the process of core body temperature regulation by endotherms, which endotherms are animals that maintain a favorable body temperature through variation in metabolic rate. The impact that whales have on the ecosystem is something that is very important to talk about. Because of the large size and extensive movements that they have vertically in relation to feeding and horizontally during the routine movements and especially during the migration, whales are important vectors of material transport that happens throughout the ocean ecosystem. Great whales are important to mass balance and energy flow due to the large size that they have, how much great abundance there are of great whales, and the high mass specific metabolic rate, which in result of endothermy. After death, the whale carcass will often sink to the bottom of the ocean floor, and because of how large whales are and how high nutrient content they have, they are able to provide food and habitat for deep sea organisms. Looking at the risk effects on whales can show you a lot about what is going on in the ecosystem. The importance of whales is usually viewed through the interactions that the whales have with their prey. Anti predator behavior has been viewed in marine mammals for a long time. During attacks from predators, some whales, such as baleen whales, will actually shift the habitat that they live in, and they will do this in result. They will move to closer, shallow waters to avoid being attacked from predators. Killer whale predation risk could lead to primary selective factor, which favors the use of communication and echolocation sounds. For example, beaked whales that are exposed to the playbacks of killer whale vocalizations will move directionally away from that sound source, suggesting that those beaked whales are avoiding the killer whales.
So, I will be talking about how whales are the engineers of the ocean. So, in the paper that I have posted a chart from in the left, it highlights the four ecological pathways in which whales contribute to the marine ecosystem. Now, we don't only mean through physical movement and transportation of nutrients, but we also mean the movement that is seen throughout trophic levels and throughout the food chain. So, through the physical movement of transportation of nutrients, whales bring nutrients from the deep where there's high productivity all the way up to the surface where there's areas of lower productivity. These type of nutrients release actually show the flow of energy throughout the trophic levels. Even in the case of deaths, where whales actually sink to the bottom, their bodies bring extensive nutrients, habitats, and even energy to benthic communities. Since whales are a keystone species, every effect that affects them does affect every level throughout the trophic chain. I will talk about this more in the next slide. So the concept of trophic cascade was actually shown when we researched large whales and their effects. So due to ecological changes where we can think ocean acidification and changes of pH, as well as the changes in all of our oceans, and extreme exploitation where we can think of whaling or any effects we have that contribute to their decline, we saw declines throughout all levels of the food web. We saw declines in mesopredators, and we think cetaceans and pinnipeds, and even in primary consumers. Even fisheries have an adverse effect on the declines of whales. So due to this lack of nutrient cycling and stabilizations of prey levels, we actually see declines throughout all trophic levels. Even in primary consumers, researchers believed that when there would be a decline in whales, there'd be a larger increase in krill and zooplankton populations, which are our primary consumers. However, due to the lack of contributing nutrients, all these primary consumers largely declined. Even fisheries who contribute into this whaling saw adverse effects in smaller fish catch or unhealthier fish populations. When we talk about nutrient distribution, I've actually posted a picture to the left to show the migratory patterns of large whales. So as you can see, there's many colors throughout the map, but the colors that seem to stand out most are yellow, green, and dark blue. So this is attributed to fin, bowhead, and blue whales that actually have the largest migratory patterns in large whales, and you can see how their movement actually attributes to global distribution of nutrients and carbon cycling. So they have the largest spatial nutrient distribution in whales. And the release of nutrients due to their fecal plumes and urines can actually enhance biological hotspots. So we can see an increase in species richness, an increase in nutrient density, and an increase in overall high productivity in all of these areas, which is a really cool concept to see how much whales not only impact the area they're in, but impact on a global scale. This can be great for fisheries. This can also be great for enhancing the diversity of all these species throughout the world. So when we talk about large whales, we also have to talk about the dangers that they face. We humans are the biggest contributors in disturbing their natural environment, whether that's through our actual equipment or through a concept known as noise pollution. So when we talk about our physical actions, we can talk about ship collisions and fishing gear entanglements, which may not always lead to death in large whales, but can definitely lead to damage, and we can think of that as maiming. So although that might not kill them instantly, it does deeply affect their productivity levels. Sounds, we can think of noise from ship, equipment from nearby construction when you think of oil rigs or you think of sonar research. And even if you think of noise from a beach, like think of beach construction, for whales who live closer to the coast can actually cause changes in their behavior, feeding, and nesting sites. So we can actually cause changes to their migratory patterns, which is a great big deal when doing research because we might not have actual results from them in their natural habitat. Even global warming, which is one of the biggest concepts they face, changes in ocean temperatures in pH level can actually deeply affect their prey catches and can even lead to increased levels in disease. So even though there might be a great amount of fish, there might be very unhealthy amounts of fish. Or when we think of prey changes, we can think of smaller catches of fish like we had mentioned in fisheries before.
I will be talking about whales' impact on the nutrient cycle. So, large whales contribute to the ocean's nutrient cycle through defecation. And in the article titled Composition of Cetacean Communities Worldwide Shapes Their Contribution to Ocean Nutrient Cycling, the authors provide four main ways in which their waste contributes to the nutrient cycle. Waste products from whales contain more nutrients than surface water, and due to their mobile nature, they're able to move nutrients between habitats. So as whales surface for air, the waste that they release spread to the euphotic zone. And here, primary producers use nutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and iron, which are essential for phytoplankton growth. And this is important when understanding the concept of the whale pump. And as seen in the figure on the left, the whale pump suggests that as whales defecate on the surface, the transfer of nutrients into deeper waters enhance primary productivity, as well as absorbing CO2 from the atmosphere. And additionally, I provide one example detailed within the article that pertains to the contribution of cetacean-released nutrients solely from baleen whales. So these whales contributed more than 90% of nutrients in the Gulf of Alaska, 46 to 55% in the Northeast Atlantic Ocean, and 37 to 65% in the central North Atlantic Ocean. Understanding the significance of large whales within the marine ecosystem is crucial, as it highlights the vital role that they perform in the health and balance of our oceans. Throughout this presentation, my group members and I highlighted large whale contributions to the marine ecosystem, along with the negative effects that would follow their extinction. Whether it be through their role as a keystone species, their ability to create biodiversity hotspots, or nutrient cycling, large whales have continued to prove their importance to the marine environment. Currently, humans pose as the greatest threats to whales. Our objective in presenting the benefits whales offer is to bring awareness and encourage the conservation of these creatures. Marine protected areas is one strategy in place for the safety of whales as they prevent, reduce, and reverse marine biodiversity loss. The article, Are Marine Protected Areas and Priority Areas for Conservation Representative of Humpback Whale Breeding Habitats in the Western South Atlantic, touches on some of the ways that MPAs should improve, as they often do not take into account the migratory patterns, seasonality, and species of cetaceans. The author suggests that adopting mobile MPAs, which would account for the behavior and distribution of cetaceans, would be valuable for better conserving cetaceans and protecting them against anthropogenic activities. One recommendation for research would be to look into the foraging behavior of large whales both in and out of designated MPAs, and how it affects the biodiversity through their migratory patterns. By understanding how we can better protect these creatures, we could simultaneously enhance our ability to preserve the environment and ensure the well-being of the marine ecosystem.
So these are all our references, and we just wanted to thank you again for watching our video, and I hope you enjoyed.